Flight looks like the simplest superpower on the menu. You just go up, right? Well, no. There is a reason superheroes that can fly spend 95% of a movie on the ground. Every flying hero in every film you love is secretly running a stack of other powers in the background. And if any one of them shuts off, the hero drops out of the sky. And that's only the first problem. There are 3 more, and there is a way to solve all of them, but only 2 heroes have managed to do that. But let's start at the beginning. If flight is your only superpower, the second you actually try to use it, you die. But why? Let's start at altitude. You go up high enough and the air gets thin. There's a reason planes pressurize the cabin. At 30,000 feet, you'd black out in about 30 seconds. I made that statistic up, by the way, but the math checks out. So, your hero needs oxygen tolerance, or they need to fly low, in which case they're a really slow car. Now, go fast. The wind chill at supersonic speeds can drop your effective skin temperature into territory where flesh freezes. Frostbite in seconds. So your hero needs temperature resistance, or again, fly low and slow, the airborne golf cart. Then there's a needle. A needle? Well, yes. Have you ever seen what happens if a needle hits the Earth at the speed of light? It will kill everything that is living on Earth. Thank you, YouTube channel Riddle, for teaching me that. I can confidently say that size does not matter. It's only the speed that does. Luckily, I come in seconds. Okay, that's enough logic, Logan lore. Back to the topic. That needle is everything else moving through the air. Birds, debris, at superhero speeds, a single pigeon hits you like a small car coming the other way. Maybe even harder. Your hero needs impact durability. You're also moving fast enough that none of your senses work normally anymore. Your eyes can't track what's coming. Your inner ear has nothing to balance against when the horizon is gone. So you need superhuman vision and superhuman reaction time too. Take any of those off the table and the hero either passes out, freezes solid, gets hit by a pigeon and explodes, or just fails. Which means the whole genre has been quietly solving this exact problem for 90 years. And it's solved in 2 ways. Door number 1, just give the hero everything. Superman is the obvious one. He flies, but he also can't be hurt. Can't be cold, can't run out of oxygen, can't be tagged in the eye by a bird because his eyes shoot lasers anyway. Captain Marvel is the same package, I guess. The whole stack arrives in one box. The fact that they can fly is almost the least interesting power they have. Their writers don't have to explain why they don't freeze or pass out because the package handles it. That also explains why the audience just does not question it. When you grow up watching Superman fly into the upper atmosphere and come back out wearing nothing but tights, you stop asking questions. It just works. You don't care about it because of what the hero stands for. Door number 2, build the suit. Iron Man wears the stack. The suit handles the oxygen, the impact, the temperature, the targeting, plus a bunch of other things Flight didn't even need. Tony Stark on his own can't fly any more than you can. Vulture works the same way. So does Falcon, with his wing pack and the goggles doing God knows what. Pepper and the rescue armor, same idea. They have a particular shared trait, which I'll get back on later, as it has something to do with the solution to the flying problem. And it's not just that external thing allowing them to have it. What's important to remember for now is that almost nobody has just flight. They either get the whole bundle for free or they had to build it. But there's a bigger problem the writers haven't been able to fix yet. Every scene in any movie needs a reason the hero can't just leave. That's how tension works. The character gets stuck and the choices they make under that pressure tell you who they are. Take away the stuck part and there is no scene. There's just a person standing in a room they could be out of in 3 seconds. So how does Flight deal with that? I mean, it hands the hero a permanent exit ramp. Because of their durability, they can just fly straight through buildings and stuff. So the second a writer puts a flying character into any scene, the first question they have to answer is, why is this person still here? Iron Man 3 is the cleanest example of a film answering that question by force. About 40 minutes in, Tony's suit fails. The Mark 42 craps out and he ends up stranded in Tennessee with a malfunctioning prototype and the kid. He stays in that town for almost an hour of screen time, fixing a broken prototype in a garage and walking around like a person who can't fly. That entire middle act of Iron Man 3 only exists because Shane Black ripped the flight away from him. The character needed to be a person, and as long as he could fly, he couldn't, so they broke the suit. They had to. Man of Steel does the same thing, just earlier. Clark spends the first hour of that film refusing to be Superman. He's a fisherman somewhere in Alaska, doing whatever quiet work will keep him invisible. The grounding is his own choice. The script needs him to be a man before he can be the thing on the poster, and the moment he does take off, the film loses most of its restraint, and the third act becomes the Metropolis fight, which we'll get to. Hancock takes the same problem and solves it with alcoholism as well as a girl. Will Smith's character has the whole stack of Superman powers and would be untouchable in any scene. So the writers made him too drunk to want to and gave some destiny with a lover that will strip away his powers. So that's half the problem. The hero hero can leave any scene, and the writer has to invent the reason they don't. Basically, the anti-flight kryptonite. Oh, that's catchy. The other half is what happens once they stay, because even when a flyer commits to being in the scene, they usually still fight like a person who can't fly. Carol Danvers in the final battle of Endgame is a version of this. Perhaps not the cleanest, but it's a version. She arrives at the fight, kicks Thanos' leg, and then punches him in the face, after which she stays at ground level trading shots with the man who can't reach her if she's in the air in the traditional fighting sense. Like, take the moment she's trying to rip off the glove. Wait, is she even pulling, or is she just trying to keep his fingers apart? Well, anyway, Thanos can apply force because she is pulling backwards. If she just flew up into the air, Thanos wouldn't be able to apply forces easily either way. She could just steal the glove. A flyer fighting a non-flyer should basically never be in melee range. They have altitude and the enemy doesn't. That's the whole advantage. They could just fly in and out of range whenever they're about to throw a single punch. But altitude looks boring on screen, and floating people throwing punches looks cool, so the writer makes the flyer fight at ground level for no reason, and the audience sort of forgives it because the punches are loud. Which means the writer is fighting flight twice in every scene. Once to keep the hero from leaving, and again to keep them from winning the fight too easily. Most scripts collapse under the weight of doing both. There are 2 films that solved it, I'll come back to them. But there's a third problem the writers haven't even started solving yet, even though it is the easiest to solve. Explore it with me. Take any fight scene you remember from any film. The 2 people on screen are doing something to each other, and you could follow what's happening because there's a floor and a wall of some sort. Things to measure against. The fight is happening in a place, and the place is doing half the work at the scene. The reason the camera can shoot a car chase is because the road tells you where the cars are. Take the road away and the car chase is just 2 cars vibrating in the dark. The same rule applies to anything moving fast. Now, put both characters in open sky. There's nothing to throw them into and no horizon for the camera to anchor on. You could show them punching each other from any angle and it'll work for a moment, but gets stale if nothing interesting happens. You need more than just sky. Let's take a look at Man of Steel for a moment. The third act of that film is one long flying fight between Superman and Zod, and the whole thing happens through Metropolis. They throw each other through every building they can find. The buildings are the ground. The camera can shoot the fight because there's something in the frame that isn't sky. Endgame does the same trick with the Sanctuary ship. When Captain Marvel shows up at the end of that battle, the moment everyone remembers is her flying straight through Thanos' ship. The ship is the hypothetical ground. She uses the metal hull as her terrain, tearing through compartment after compartment. The moment she does try to fight Thanos in open space, it doesn't last. He hits her with the Power Stone and she's gone, and the fight has to come back down to where the ground is. Spider-Man Homecoming pulls the same move with Vulture's plane heist. That whole sequence is technically aerial, all happening at altitude, but the cargo plane is the ground. Spider-Man is fighting on top of the fuselage and inside it. The plane is the surface of the scene. Without the plane, the fight is 2 guys floating around in the dark. Even Thor doesn't really fly. According to most sources, he gets thrown by a hammer. Mjolnir is the surface. When Thor takes off, the camera follows the hammer with a god attached to it. Maybe Stormbreaker works differently, but we're skipping over that. The cleanest example of all this is the film that refused the problem entirely. The Incredibles has no flyer in the family. Pixar gave them every kind of power except flight. Strength, elasticity, invisibility, speed. Brad Bird picked the powers that could be staged in real spaces. Things you can fight with in a living room. Almost every successful flying scene in modern film history is a film figuring out what to put in the frame so the camera can still see the flight. The flying scene always has something the audience can read against. Take that away and there's no fight to shoot for a long period of time. It works for a while, but the sky alone doesn't work forever. There's one more problem, and this one is a lie, but an iconic one. Have you ever seen a superhero catch a falling woman? Superman does it, Titan does it, twice. Okay, 3 times. The rescue scene is the most iconic flight image in the entire genre. Usually the crowd cheers and the music swells. This is the shot every superhero poster wants. It's also a lie. A person in free fall reaches terminal velocity at about 200 kilometers per hour. That's around 120 miles per hour in freedom units. At that speed, catching someone with your arms is identical to driving them into a wall at 120 miles per hour.
Those physics don't care that the wall is moving.
What matters is the change in velocity, and when you stop someone going 120 miles an hour in a fraction of a second by grabbing them, you break almost everything in their body with the G-forces they experience. Superman Returns ups the ante and catches a 777 passenger jet that's already in a power dive, slowing it down so much the metal of the freaking plane wrinkles. It comes to a controlled landing in a baseball stadium. Everyone inside survives. The plane weighs hundreds of tons. The passengers should be paced, but nope. Man of Steel runs the same lie multiple times. times. Lois falls more than once during that film, and every time, Superman catches her at speed like she's a tennis ball. The film shows the speed on the falls. Then it shows her landing in his arms like she stepped off a curb. The genre has been telling this lie since 1978, and the only show that called it on the floor is The Boys. There's a sequence in the first season where Homelander and Mauve, Maeve, whatever, are on a hijacked plane, and there's nothing they can do. If you try stopping the plane, he goes straight through the hall or something. He's Homelander, not Planelander, so the plane crashes. I totally stole that joke from a comic, by the way. That scene is one of the most discussed moments in the entire show. People remember it because it's the only time the rescue scene refused to lie, which means that we have 4 problems stacked up. The 2 films I said I'd come back to, they're the answer. The 2 films are Iron Man and Spider-Man Homecoming, and both of them are the same idea, 9 years apart. The idea is simple. Flight has to fail. Iron Man came out in 2008, and almost the entire film is about flight not working. Tony Stark builds the Mark I to escape captivity, he fires it up, blasts out of the cave, gets airborne for a few seconds, and crashes face first into the desert. That's the first flight in the film. Back in the workshop in California, he gets thrown into a wall of cars by his own thrust boots. He hits the ceiling on the first full suit test. The film makes a running joke out of the fact that flight is a problem the character is openly failing to solve. Then comes the test flight. Tony flies up through the atmosphere, exceeding the altitudes the suit was built for, and the suit ices over. He falls. The screen goes black. He has to defrost the systems and re-engage the thrusters on the way down. He saves himself, but only barely. This is the whole reason Iron Man's flight feels real. The audience watched him struggle to make it work. They watched him fail. By the time he's flying confidently in the third act, every viewer in the theater is reading the flight as something the character earned through a series of crashes. Spider-Man Homecoming does the exact same thing with the villain. Adrian Toomes builds a flight suit out of salvaged Chitauri tech. The whole thing is a mechanical rig with wings and a flight pack, and the entire arc of his villainy is the suit slowly betraying him. The plane heist is the centerpiece. Toomes tries to steal Stark's cargo plane mid-flight, and the sequence is a long, sustained failure. The plane wobbles violently throughout the sequence. Spider-Man tears at the wings until Toomes is hanging on by the rig that's supposed to be his entire identity. Then comes the climax at Coney Island. Toomes is about to fly off with stolen Avengers tech, and his wing engines start to overload. The suit catches fire mid-flight. Toomes is engulfed and falls, and Spider-Man tries to pull him out of his own crash rig before the suit kills him. The villain's flight power is what nearly murders him. Both films understood the same thing. The audience can't believe a power that never breaks. Flight in particular needs visible failure modes because the audience is sitting there with 200 years of human experience that says people aren't supposed to be in the air. The only way they believe a man can fly is by watching him not fly first. This is why Iron Man and Vulture feel like flight characters and Superman often doesn't. Superman's flight never cost him anything. The genre's most iconic flyer is one the audience is most suspicious of because the writers have never let him fall. Well, maybe the kryptonite stuff is the kill switch. Yeah, whatever. Fight me in the comments over it, explaining everywhere I'm wrong. But before you do, watch what happens the next time you see a flying scene in a superhero movie. Watch what's in the frame. Watch how long the hero spends in pure sky before the writer brings them back down. Watch when the suit malfunctions and the wings fail. Every flying scene that actually worked was a writer winning a fight against the power itself. Flight powers are fixable. Time powers are not. Or are they? My other video is going to tell you about it, so click here to find out.